E0LMY. I am, oh Lord, it's a long list of what I am. Most recently, I was in QST Magazine, the December 2020 issue, as their member spotlight. I work for 2 EMAs as the deputy director for each one. I'm the emergency coordinator for the Benton County ARES in Missouri, and I'm also the PIO for the Warsaw Fire Protection District, and just list. There's a list.
Go to her homepage.
Yeah, just click the link.
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't been in amateur radio for very long, but my passion for it lies in two completely opposite ways. The primary thing is for the amateur radio emergency service because it blends so much with my jobs. I'm literally enmeshed between amateur radio and emergency management out here. In rural jurisdictions, we don't get a lot of options for what we can use for communications, not only in regular situations, but in large scale emergencies. So I very rarely take to social media, but I was actually livid about the conversation that amateur radio was not an emergency radio service. I know that's a hot button topic. But I was pretty upset about that. I was like, I beg to differ because all of the counties that I work for, it's very much a part of not only our local emergency operations plan, but it's also a part of what we use when we're in trouble. So I'll get to that. I promise not to kill you by PowerPoint. It's more to keep me on track and make sure I don't ramble on.
You two better take Nancy's.
I'm going to mute everybody. You're gonna have to unmute yourself there, Sam. We had somebody come in.
No problem, no problem. I do a ton of these meetings. Anyway, so I do have PowerPoint presentations to share with you guys. Dan's actually asked me to come back on the second one that I have, but I'll be referring to it a little bit during.
You don't have to come back for that one. If you want.
Oh, you got somebody?
Well, no, we could do something else that day. I was giving you that option.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't mind. You guys are awesome. But we do a lot, not only with ARES, but with CERT as well. And they're tied together pretty tightly in Benton County. Camden County is a little bit different on how they handle CERT and ARES over there. It stands alone. They don't really mesh over there. But here in Benton County, absolutely, 100%. So I will share my screen with you if I can. And then hopefully you guys will be able to see the presentation. Here we go. Okay.
Should be the green button in the bottom of your Zoom screen there.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot when my computer, hold on one second, because when my computer died, it closed all the windows that I had open. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me grab this. Okay, there we go. All right, now I should be able to share it with you guys. All right, this one, and share. Hopefully it'll, did it do it? Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, great.
It's a coming.
Fantastic. Let me move us over there and turn this into present. You guys will notice that all of my PowerPoint presentations are done in Canva. I cannot say enough for Canva. It is the most wonderful place to create anything. They don't pay me to say that. All right, so when Dan contacted me about doing another presentation for you guys, actually this was the first one that he asked me about, and then we dumped the best damn Christmas in December, but he wanted me to talk a little bit about not only amateur radio emergency service, but how we use it specifically in our area and how that can apply nationwide. I keep looking at you guys over here because I moved the screen over here, so I'm looking at your faces while I'm talking to you. So I put this together. It's just a little PowerPoint to keep me on track. If I'm running long, let me know. If I'm running too short, tell me slow down because I've been in coffee mode all day long. This is my third conference call for today. All right. One of the biggest parts of my job for the EMA, I'm going to be changing hats a lot during this presentation between being EMA and being ARES. is that we had to find a way to make it legal for our amateur radio emergency service operators to operate within the county during emergencies. And we wanted to do it in a way that gave them as much freedom to do what they could do that we didn't know how to do as possible. So we made sure both in Benton and Camden counties, the amateur radio emergency service is a part of our local emergency. I'm sure most of you already know what it is, but I'm just going to go through it with you. These local emergency operations plans go into effect if there's a large scale emergency in order to keep everything running smoothly and to manage the emergency. They work tightly with the COOPs. I'm sure most of you know the continuity of operations. We feel that it's vitally important to have amateur radio included in the actual LEOP for the jurisdiction. This can be extremely hard sell, which I'll get into in a few minutes, whether it's due to the history with the hams or with the hams themselves. Like, people want to say they're not professionals. I've been, I guess, lucky so far that every single amateur radio operator, with the exception of one, has been an absolute privilege to work with. They have conducted themselves at times better than non-professionals, or better than professionals. They are so helpful, and that's all they want to do. They want to help, and this is how they can do it. So I'll get into a little bit more as we get down through the program. The relationship with first responder agencies is one of the hardest things, if you don't already have it in place, to establish. In Benton County, amateur radio operators are 99% completely accepted by the first responders. They have a lot of respect for each other. They understand each other's capabilities, and there is no problem whatsoever. They don't butt heads. They each know where their lines are and where their place is, and they don't argue. They don't fight. And it's beautiful. I love Benton County. Can't say enough for it. Camden County, it's a little tougher because those issues with having an amateur radio operator who did something wrong or made someone angry really stuck in there, and it's the history that is really causing the problem. So what I'm having to do in Camden County is work agency by agency to rebuild the trust and the solid friendships and relationships that need to be there, because we need to work together. One of the amazing things I just found out, I literally just found this out, is that one of the fire chiefs for Camden County is a ham radio operator. So ever since I found that out, I went, okay, we're going to be good with at least one. So the biggest thing that I've seen as a benefit in this and the way to help start healing this wound, number one, is to have the acceptance that nobody else is going to heal this wound, so I'm going to take it on me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work with these people, let them see, because I'm an amateur radio operator, that I conduct myself professionally, and let them see that there is the possibility they can get back past those incidents or those injuries or those hard feelings and start working with a new generation, start working with different amateur radio operators, because just because you don't like one doesn't mean you don't like all of us. Were there any questions so far, Dan?
None yet.
Okay. I know a lot of this is stuff you guys already know, and it's not hard to preach to the choir, but this presentation is actually going out on the podcast that I do as well. So, all right. County exercises and training. One of the greatest things that I think amateur radio operators are invited to, and when they get to the level that they're invited to them, is the county exercises and training. And at that point, I feel that you've been accepted back, or you've been accepted. When they will let you come in, like our county, Benton County, has an emergency communications trailer. If the emergency management agency and all of the first responders let the amateur radio operators be the ones to bring the MCom trailer to the staging area or the location where it's needed, you have trust. You have that perfect mesh where everybody's got a job, they stick to it, it's great. And I can say over and over again that we've established that here, and it is beautiful, and it is a wonderful thing when you're able to do it. The way that we stepped up into being able to do that is we started by just coming to tabletop exercises. We didn't have our hands on equipment. This was back before I was working for the EMA, but we didn't have our hands on equipment. We just came in when they had tabletop exercises and sat down and went, we can help with that. We can help with that. If you'd like, you can assign us to something other than amateur radio. That's one of the biggest sales points to an EMA for ARES. And if you look in your EC001 or any of the field manuals, you'll see it says you're not restricted to just working on amateur radios. Even as ARES, you can work on anything that you can use for communication. So even if the phones are still up and they need somebody to grab a phone line, go for it. It's all about that volunteer spirit and that volunteer heart and letting them know, hey, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not here to make your job worse. I'm not here to make it hard. I'm here to help you. So that's been one of the biggest positives that's come out of my working relationship between the EMA and ARES. Coordination. We do a lot of cross-training, not only between ARES and CERT, but the EMA, first responding agencies. We actually have our ARES and CERT take landing zone training with our fire departments, because we're completely 100% volunteer fire departments here in Benton County. Camden County has both paid and volunteer, but they're forever needing people who, if you don't want to be the one landing the helicopter, here, hold the radio, let them know what we're doing while we're landing the helicopters, or to let us know what's going on. So when you get that kind of trust, and that's not a one-time thing, you have to train with the fire department pretty regularly, and you have to stay up to date. People have to know who you are. So we do things like, even though it's not part of regular ARES or CERT, CPR training. You never know when you're going to need it. Most of my guys have been very cooperative with anything that we ask them to train on. They'll take it. They're like, sure, is it free? Sure. So if you give these volunteers the opportunity to reach out and stretch out and really get comfortable with their place in the community, or even within the EMA or any of the organizations, they'll take the opportunity. All right, in the classroom. Oh, this is fun. We like to make sure that all of our members are trained to NIMS, which I'm sure you guys all know NIMS. Even before ARES went nationwide with that, Benton County was already doing NIMS training. I looked at the guys and I said, hey, if you understand how things work on scenes and back at the EOC, would it make it easier for you to do the communications? And in a resounding yes. They said, absolutely, it will help us. So actually, every single active member of the Benton County ARES has the 100, the 200, the 700, and the 800. And then some of them have gone far beyond that to the actual NIMS, 230, 235, all the emergency management ones, so that they could understand what I have to do when I can't have my ARES hat on. And it's difficult sometimes, because sometimes you'll get volunteers who go, well, we know that's the way you want it to work, but that's not the way it works in real life. So there's a little bit of give and take, where we can say, okay, this is what we have to do by law, and this is what we have to do according to the books, but you've got a little leeway. You can do something that matches up with what ARES standards or the ARRL standards are, even if it doesn't 100% match up with our standards. Any questions yet?
One question, what's the average age of your ARES members?
Good question, good question. One moment. I would say, because we have some really young and some older people, it's probably mid-range, is probably 50, 55, around that area. I'm one of our younger ones. I'm 40, so I know, oh my God, a girl just told her age. But both of my children are involved, and they have been since I got involved. My daughter just turned 18, and my son is going to be 16 in about a month. So both of them are, well, she's a firefighter, full-fledged firefighter now, and he's a cadet. So we do have the children, the young hams, and then we also have the older hams, because Warsaw, Missouri is actually a retirement area. So I like to get all of my ex-military and get them back involved, because they're usually pretty motivated. I'm actually going to go into that later on. Was there another question?
One other question, how many of the people have taken OXCOM training?
Actually, I've been offered it, but it conflicted with my schedule for the EMA, so I haven't been able to take it yet. But I know I've been offered it at least once since I've been here. Otherwise, I don't think since COVID-19 hit that they've been offering those trainings. At least they haven't been here in Missouri.
Okay. Are there any larger cities in your two counties if someone wants to try to locate it on a map?
If you Googled Truman Dam, Harry S. Truman Dam and Reservoir, that's located in Warsaw, Missouri, and that's Benton County.
Okay.
And then the Lake of the Ozarks is Camden County. So if you know where the Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri is, that's Camden County.
Okay.
Both of them are located within the triangle of Columbia, Springfield, and Jeff City, Missouri.
Okay.
There's a triangle that's made there, and both of us are right there out in the middle of it.
Okay. And there's one more, but we'll save it for later.
Sure. Okay. I don't mind. Sometimes I feel like I go too fast, and you guys feel free to slow me down. Sometimes I might be dragging it out. You just adjust my pace however it works out. The biggest thing about this slide that I like to point out to people is it's not very often that you're going to get someone who's willing to come to the classroom to actually train the independent study courses. But if you do have somebody that is open to doing that for you, I encourage that 100%. I took the IS 100 into the classroom for our firefighters at Warsaw Fire Protection District. And at the beginning of it, they were skeptical, and they were like, what are you trying to train us? And by the end of it, they were absolutely fascinated. They were like, yeah, that's what happens. That's what should happen. And by the time we got done with just the 100, our fire department performs better now on fire scenes. So I can't argue with results. Was there another question?
I guess we can do this now. Some of the counties are having problems getting their applications signed by the served agencies for ARES and RACES, etc. Hams are only invited to participate with Skywarn, and ARES classes are not available to rural counties. Where can they get help?
A good start's probably with me. I'm actually a certified trainer for Missouri. I don't know if they'll carry that over to other states, but I do a lot of virtual trainings. And if I know somebody who can help you, great. If at the end of this presentation is all of my contact information, and I can try and help get you the information you need. I do know that Skywarn wise, the Nashville National Weather Service just put on their very first virtual Skywarn training, and they opened it up all over at least the country. I don't know if it was opened up all over the world, but it was opened up to the whole country, and it was a smashing success. So I actually think getting in touch with Nashville Skywarn to find out when they're going to do their next virtual training is probably a great idea. I can say that Springfield NWS here in Missouri is also angling to not only give a Skywarn training, because you know Skywarn spotters don't have to be hams. They're also doing one that's going to encompass ham radio, specifically net control operators. So if you guys want to, I guess I could put together a mailing list when I hear something about when they finalize the program, and I can send that information out, or I could even give it to Dan and Dan could send it out, because if they're going to open it up nationwide like Nashville did, then you guys will have the opportunity to do that. I do know there's a lot of problem getting the Skywarn certification right now because we can't have the in-seat section. You know, you can take the 2 courses online, but then you have to have the in-seat section. EMAs are working very hard to try and get that done. At least my EMAs are working really hard to try and get that done. It does come down to what the rules are and things like that. But I can tell you that Camden County has just opened up a WebEx account, and they've pretty much given me full rights to training, whatever I want. So I can try and start putting some stuff together, see if we can get partnered up with Skywarn and get some classes, some virtual classes put together for you guys.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was that long?
That's all right. Now, then another question. Did you get your ARES group trained up first, or did you make your connections with the served agencies first?
ARES first. If you're asking about myself and how I came up, it was ARES first. My husband, KD0WXT, Roger Henley, he actually, his dad, I think, was an amateur radio operator back in the 50s or 60s. And he grew up looking at his dad's lollipop mic. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But he's got the big silver lollipop mic, and he kept buying the amateur radio magazines, and he never got his license. And I said, why do you keep spending your money on it if you're not going to go ahead and do it? It was kind of one of those, you know, do it or get off the pot things. So he finally got his tech license. A year later, I homeschool my kids. So my daughter and I both got our tech licenses about a year after he got his. And after that, I was at a conference, the Show Me Partnership Conference. I don't know if any of you will recognize that. It's a conference where they recognize volunteer organizations for their contributions. And I met Mark Richardson, who is my boss here at Benton County Emergency Management. And this is my favorite story. He said to me, after watching me work a tabletop, he said to me, what are you planning on doing with all that you know? And I went, well, I'll tell you what, I certainly hope I can kick in the door on a job. He said, be in my office Monday morning. I love that story. It worked. So I'm sorry, I've gone on and on. Were there other questions?
Does your state, I guess, or any state, offer any of its counties offer ICS 300 or 400 COMEL, excuse me, or other classes that would mix agency personnel with their volunteer resources? And if yes, is it posted anywhere?
Actually, yes. And I'm, as I was saying earlier, I'm a certified trainer for the state of Missouri. The 300 and the 400 are actually classes that I can teach. They're actually piloting virtual here in Missouri. I don't know if they're doing it in every state, but I can speak for Missouri. They're piloting virtual 300 and 400s because a lot of emergency management has to have that for their EMPG, their Emergency Management Performance Grant. So they had to find a way to work around the COVID restrictions. They are, I think they're actually piloting it right now. I think they've done a couple of classes, couple of virtual classes for it. And if not, it'll be coming really soon. I would say check with if you're tight with your EMA, or if they can find out from the state emergency management agency for your state, find out if they're either open to you being a part of it, if they also have a virtual offering, or if they'll accept the another state's offering. It depends on how tight the rules are for your state.
Okay. At the end of the presentation, when you offer your contact information, can you briefly talk about how to get certified as an instructor?
Sure. For the state?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you how I did it. I'm very sure it varies by state, but I can tell you how I did it here in Missouri. A lot of it has to do with the fact that after I springboarded out of ARES into the EMA, I'm pretty motivated. So yeah, I can go over that. All right, I'm sure I've babbled on. I'm so sorry if I'm taking up too much time.
It's okay. Let's go on.
All right, so the next thing that worked really well for us is the simulated emergency tests. I know you guys know about those every year in October. My very first simulated emergency test was 3 years ago. It was so big. It was so overwhelming. I actually didn't know how to do it for my own county because I was a brand new EC. So I asked one of my partnering counties who I'd built a relationship with if I could come up there, if my guys could come up and do the set with their county so we could learn how to do it. And so the Warrensburg Area Amateur Radio Club Incorporated, which is WARCI up in Johnson County, Missouri, let not only the Benton County ARES, but we've also partnered with Spark, who is the Sedalia Pettis Amateur Radio Club up in Sedalia, Missouri. We all three came together in a tri-county effort, and we ran the simulated emergency, or that was field day, I'm sorry. We did that for field day. For the simulated emergency test, they showed us what we needed to do in order to operate completely on emergency power. They told us it was a lot like field day, but it was a little more involved. It was just a little bit more involved. So I partnered with Scott, who was the guy who created the simulated emergency test for Johnson County. And he showed me how to set out the script and how to go through everything. Then the next year, my second year doing it, we did it Benton County by ourselves, and that's when we worked CERT into it. And let me tell you, our volunteers could not have been more excited and more motivated than when we broke all of our volunteers up into 2 CERTs and 1 ARES per team, and then we distributed them throughout the county to get real-time numbers on how long it took to get from our staging area out into the various places in the county. There was so much positive feedback from not only the CERTs, but the ARES members. We had some first responding agencies that got involved because they were excited. So we really drummed up some interest, and I can't say enough for how well the CERTs performed and how well ARES performed. I think that's one of the things that made us mesh together better, because once the first responding agencies saw that we conducted ourselves in a very professional manner and we got things done and we were not a hindrance, boy, they were on board after that. So yeah, definitely, if you can get even 1 or 2, grab a firefighter, have them come out and watch what's happening. Grab it, if you know a cop, in your area, grab one, hey, come watch this. I want to show you something, and it starts with just 1. Because as soon as you can get 1 to tip towards your side of the scale, they start to come over, and you don't think about it, because I realize there are a lot of counties where that's not true. There are a lot of counties where you guys are, and we'll get to that in a couple of slides, but it did work for us. And I was really excited that all of the harmony was able to come out of that. Oh, something's flashing. Is there a question?
No.
Okay, I don't know what that was. All righty. This is the one thing that I've heard numerous times, regardless of what I've done, regardless of what the groups have done, regardless of what the history is. There is no substitute for the charismatic leader. Having a clear view and goal for the group and groups is irreplaceable. Without that key person to motivate the members, the effort will fall apart. And I can tell you exactly how that played out, because COVID-19 has just let my volunteers kind of trickle around. Because we're not getting together, we're not seeing each other face to face, we're canceling the exercises, we're doing all of this stuff, we're starting to lose touch. I'm having to really work to pull everybody back in and get them excited again about the prospects of doing the exercises, doing the things like building antennas and stuff that we do at our monthly meetings. One of the coolest things, I think, is that our section manager has offered to come to one of Little Benton County, come to one of our meetings and help us build antennas. I was like, that's fantastic. So for those of you in the upper echelon of leadership, if you don't think that it gets the little guys excited at the county level when you say, hey, I'll come to your meeting, yes, it does. Yeah, 100%. All right.
I got one thing before you go on.
Sure.
The EMI, the Emergency Management Institute in Maryland, has a
Mhm.
COML K0949 virtual course, Train the Trainer, for January 25th to 29th, and it's an open registration.
Oh, awesome. Can you shoot that information out in an email? Because I might try and squeeze.
It's in
I
the
might be able to
chat,
squeeze that
so,
in.
but so Dan can send it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's another thing. EMI is canceling its in-person courses, but they are offering a lot more virtual courses. So the biggest thing is get tapped into that information ring where you start to find out when these courses pop up, because the minute they pop up, they tend to fill up.
Yes.
Everybody's jumping in them. They're starting to offer courses that we couldn't get before because they would go, oh, we're going to have this once a year. Well, if that conflicted with a schedule where you were in a whole nother state or a whole nother area, you couldn't go to that once a year thing. But now with them moving it to virtual, I've been taking courses for the last 3 weeks that never were an option for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, was there another question?
Oh, that's good.
Okay, great. All right. This is one of the biggest questions I get asked every single time I'm on anything, which is engaging volunteers. How do you get them? How do you keep them? And now that there's a pandemic, what do you do? Well, you know as well as I do, we were already just racking our brains trying to figure out how do you get these people to want to give their time to you and to what you want to do. One of the best things to me that's helped and worked with reaching out with my volunteers has been our weekly nets. I know that sounds silly, but honestly, I send out a reminder on Facebook from our Facebook page for the Benton County ARES at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings to remind them that at 7 that night we have our net. And I'll have people that'll say, as soon as they go to check in, they'll say, hey, I almost forgot, but I saw your post. Okay. There are a lot of ARES members that are kind of competitive against the new digital age. And I don't mean digital radio, I mean actual social media and things like that. And one of the best things that you can use is social media, because I keep finding amateur radio operators I didn't even know were amateur radio operators. I've known the people for 13 years and had no idea, none. And all of a sudden they'll pop up and they'll say, hey Sam, are you running this amateur radio page? And I'm, yeah. And they're like, hey, I'm a ham, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with it. So they've had their licenses for umpteen years, but they passed the test and they didn't have anybody to tell them how you talk on the radio. So the cool thing that's happened is we've had a lot of members reach out and do new ham activities, either just meeting them on the air and just rag chewing with them for a little while. That way they get over their mic fright, or showing them how to program their Bofang. Hey, I tell people all the time, don't sneeze at Bofangs. They're cheap, and if I roll over it with my pickup truck on a scene, I'm not out a ton of money. But they don't know how, they get the radio, they don't know how to program it. If you teach them how to program their own radio, that is one of the best things you can do for them. Then you start stepping them up. Can you program your mobile? Can you program your base unit? Here's digital, here's, HF. You got to get a higher license for HF. So it's to me, it's all about stepping up baby steps, because let me tell you, when I started in the 4 years ago now, it was hard. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. And as far as I was concerned, when my husband was doing it, I was like, oh, goody, it's a guy thing. What am I ever going to need this for? And he told me, he said, it's not all about just talking on the radio and rag chewing, because I'll tell you, I'm the first one that I don't like rag chewing. I like to have a point for being on the radio. So he said, you can do emergency service stuff. And he introduced me to the ARES group, and it just took off from there. But then after that, I learned about contesting. I love doing special events and contesting. I think it is so much fun. Most of the ones I don't do under my own call sign. I do them under whichever group asks me to come, because they like to have me come and do, like W9IMS, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway team. I've been with them for 2 years now. I do all of their special events for like the Grand Prix, the Indy 5 or the Indy 400, and what's the third one? There's one more. But I come and, virtually I control their radios, and from right here in Missouri, I run their special events for them sometimes. And it is so much fun. So once you start letting volunteers know, hey, it is good to do emergency service, but there is so much more to our hobby. Once you get them into that mindset, they're like, oh, okay, well, tell me a little bit more. So that's been a good hook for us out here. All right, let's see.
I got a question. How many hams in your county?
In ARES, we've got about 20. 12 are regularly active. We got another 10 that will come in if there's an actual emergency, but they don't want to have anything to do with, sitting around being a group. I'm sure all of you can empathize with that. Some of the real war horses, we've got ex-FBI, we've got Vietnam or current he's a Vietnam vet who's retired. He's in our group. So these guys are, call me if there's an emergency. Then now the Vietnam vet, my new AEC, Stephen Swerline, KS6DRH, he is an absolute blessing. When I talked about leadership earlier and having a charismatic leader, having someone who can take the pain and the pressure of leadership off the leader is your number 2 priority. Because we can go and go and go, and we will burn ourselves out without even knowing it. So definitely get a good, strong second, because it's rough, even when you don't know you're suffering, Were there any other questions?
What's the population of your county?
Benton County is around 19,000 people, and Camden County is around 46,000. So I get 2 different spectrums. And Camden County, their ARES kind of petered out there for a little while, but ever since I started working for their EMA, it started to pick back up again. So they just certified the club that supports ARES over there. Just certified, I think, 6 new techs last month, and they all wanted to be part of ARES. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay. So one more question.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
ARES is not generally a club. How has your group organized? And do you have a budget or dues? Where does money come from? And how does liability and/or insurance fit into your ARES unit?
Oh, we get that question a lot too, because everyone knows ARES cannot have money.
Right.
Don't. No. We actually have a club in each of the counties that supports ARES. It is in their bylaws that they will support ARES financially if they need paper, if they need pencils, any kind of office supplies, things like that. The EMA in our counties, at least I'm going to talk about Benton County first because it's different in both counties. The EMA in Benton County, we take care of any faxes, any mailing, any equipment. I wish I had my other camera hooked up because I'm sitting in the radio room of Benton County right now. The EMA gets all of the equipment, including radios, all of the power supplies, anything you could think of. The county itself now owns the repeater because they didn't want people fighting when there was fighting within a club. So they wanted to own the repeater and then give us the rights to use it and to manage it. The emergency communications trailer belongs to the county. So we went through a lot of things, which I'll get into the emergency communications trailer here in a little bit. But what we do is essentially the EMA absorbs the cost here through various grants and things like that to get the equipment and our own budget. And what we ask is we just need butts in seats. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it, is we need your butt in the seat to operate all this equipment we can get for you. So we appreciate the people who have gone to the effort to get amateur radio licenses, because before I was here, I don't think any of the EMDs had their amateur radio licenses, and they had to solely rely on operators within the county. So we appreciate you taking the time to get this certification, no matter what these crazy congressmen are saying. Don't listen to them. Listen to me. Okay, I know how much effort it is and how much work it is and how confusing this entire thing is, because I was walking through this process 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's painful to have all of that work and effort, even for me as an EMA personnel, to hear somebody say ARES is not emergency communications or, you know, anything like that. That's painful to me, because yes, it is. So
cover all the questions so we can move on.
So a lot of the funding, in short, comes from grants or our budget. We feel here at Benton County EMA that this is so important that we want to make sure that there is enough equipment and the right equipment for our amateur radio operators to help the county. We've gotten, I want to say both of the FT 991As that are in the MCom trailer came from a grant. I think there's a couple more pieces of equipment that have come from the grant, but a lot of it is just we funded it. We took it out of our budget and said, hey, what do you need? Tell us what you need. We've got great people to work with. We have great salesmen that we work with up in Kansas City. I don't suppose I could say anything about who that is, but he's a great guy and he always treats us right. So we trust him, and he actually walked us through a brand new thing that we had to do not too long ago. We had to install a new backup amateur radio system in the police department here in Camden County so that we could have a backup EOC. We wanted to make sure that we had amateur radios in the backup EOC. All right, just bringing it back around, virtual trainings. Guys, I get on, I don't know if your states have it, but our Missouri State Emergency Management Agency has a training and exercise management website where it keeps track of all of your IS courses and any training and exercises you do. I can't say enough times, please register with that, because you'll start to get the emails, hey, we're offering this course. Or you can check in every once in a while and go, oh, you know what? That would be useful. I should take that. And literally, that's what I do. I just go there once a week or so and see what new stuff has popped up, because the pandemic has really caused them to kick a lot of these in-seat courses over to virtual. And now we're able to get so many more qualifications, certifications, all of these other things. we wouldn't normally be able to get. All right. I talked earlier about Spark, the Sedalia Pettis Amateur Radio Club. They do their monthly meetings over the air. They don't meet in person because they have an at-risk population, but they have a very family-like, very familiar, just a big family. They have a big family feel to them, and they like to talk to each other and catch up and how you doing? Oh, my radio's on the fritz this week. And you can go in there anytime, and they're welcoming and warm. And I can't say enough about the people that I've partnered with, not only for the groups, but myself personally. So if you're looking for an option on how to do these meetings without actually meeting in person, this has been a successful format, the over-the-air meetings. It's not run like a net because it's very informal. It's not really a rag chew either, or a round table either, because it doesn't go from one person to another. They've got this natural flow where they know when they can talk. It's really amazing to listen to. I love it. Okay, so this brings us to that point that I made earlier where we can't fight amateur radio against technology. We have to embrace it. I know a lot of people don't like Facebook. I know. But you'll hear a lot of people say it's on our Facebook page, or we make the announcements on our Facebook page. Not everyone's on Facebook, so setting up a really simple website is a really, really good way to get not only your group out there, but it can get information when brand new hams like I was, when we don't know what to do. We don't know where to go. Like it says here, I had a terrible time. There was no Elmer for me. And now I do everything I can, come to these meetings and everything else, and reach out and try and be a good Elmer to brand new ham radio operators. This world is hard. This amateur radio world is hard when you don't have an Elmer, a guide through it. So I do a lot of graphic design, and right now I run 8 websites on top of all the other stuff I do. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take this website and I'm going to make it informative. I'm going to make it fun, and I'm going to make it easy to find stuff. So BentonCountyARES.org is a place where I've set up things like quick reference guides, and I've taken all of this information that's really hard to find on certain other websites and made it easy to find. Okay, I know y'all are curious about this one. The MCom trailer. It is really hard for amateur radio operators to sell to a county that they need an MCom trailer. I don't know if you know that, but it is. So when I started working at Benton County EMA, because I started working here first, I talked to my boss and I said, hey, you gave us a radio. We have a radio room. I said, but what happens if you need communications on scene? And he looked at me for a minute and he went, that's a good question. What does happen? And I said, well, you can be stumbling over our first responders on the county radios, or you can use a perfect means of communications between the scene and the EOC by getting an MCom trailer. He said, okay, tell me more. I was like, cool. Let me tell you some more. So I said, okay, here's what I can do. I said, if you can give me a cargo trailer, we can put together, we being ARES, because ARES members help build the MCom trailer for our county. I said, we can build half the trailer to be amateur radio equipment and half the trailer to be county equipment. He said, you know what? That's a good idea. I said, thanks. So we ended up with actually a cargo trailer that looks really similar to the one in this picture. It's a 7 by 14, and we got the extra tall walls because for some reason all of my amateur radio operators are like 6'4" and above. I don't know how they get so tall, but I didn't want them whacking their head every time they had to go operate in the trailer. So over the course of, I would say, 2 years, it took us about 2 years, my husband finishing up the last of it, to put the trailer together. It's essentially together now. We've got some finishing pieces, you know, all the finishing details. But we've got all of the county radios on one side, the amateur radios on the other side, and on the county radio side, the desk collapses down against the wall so that when we're traveling, we can put the ladders in there and the tables and chairs and canopies and all that other stuff. It can go right against that wall over there. There's pictures, I think, on the EMA's website, which is bcmoem.com. I did a walkthrough and it's on my Facebook page, so I'll send the link to that to Dan and I think he can send it out to everybody. But yeah, the MCom trailer's kind of been my baby project. I've gone through a lot with a lot of people, and a lot of people have had great work. Some's been not so great, but you know, that's to be expected. But overall, we've rolled it out for an active shooter exercise so far for the county. We have rolled it out for all of the sets, field day. It's been out for events like our Jubilee and Heritage Days here in Warsaw, Missouri. So it's been out a lot, even before it was fully completed or close to complete. Limitations. Okay, guys, here's the thing. Us amateur radio operators, I'm going to talk as an amateur radio operator for a minute. We don't like to accept limitations, and we don't like to admit limitations. We're like, hang on, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. But in order to clearly and easily and try and gain ground selling the fact that an amateur radio operator can help an EMA, you have to admit you do have limitations. Being honest about those limitations is one of the things that'll help build that trust. Okay. We get super excited about everything that we can do and all the potential and everything, and that's great. That's fantastic. I say keep trying. But we also have to say, hey, here in Missouri, our landscape is mostly rock. I don't know how much you guys know about Missouri. But yeah, working around rock or trying to work through rock, it's not good. So we've had to be really upfront about, that's another reason why we wanted the MCom trailer, because we could put it on top of a hill and then we can shoot message from the EOC to the trailer and the trailer can disperse it out from there. That was a huge selling point. All right. The other thing that I'm asked a lot when I start to get excited or passionate about amateur radio, and I'm talking to somebody who's not a ham, they're like, Sam, I don't understand. I don't know what you're saying. I forget sometimes that non-hams don't understand what we say and what our lingo is. So we have to take it back to the NIMS version and take it very common language, very simple. What I found is it's simple. They don't care. Using highly technical gibberish is not going to make you sound important or show how smart you are, especially this part for figuring out the sometimes extremely difficult process of establishing communications. We know it's difficult. All of us know that. But talking gibberish to them is just going to make them look to someone else and say, just get it done. Just get it done. I don't care how you do it. Just get it done. My advice, save yourself some heartache, make it easy to understand, but don't talk down to them. My boss is former Water Patrol for 30 years, and he's worked with radios the whole time he was in Water Patrol, and he's been in emergency management for I don't know how many years now. So he'll look at me and say, Sam, what do we need? And I'll start rattling off stuff, and he goes, I have no idea what that is. Just tell me what we need. Just write it down. And I say, okay. And then occasionally he'll ask me, hey, why do we need that? why do we need a tuner? So I explained to him why we need a tuner in very easy to understand way. But I don't talk down to him. I have a tremendous amount of respect. I am very lucky to have great bosses. So that's one of the things to be careful of, and one of the pitfalls that I find with some of the amateur radio operators that I deal with on a regular basis, because I don't know everything by far. No, I'm bringing you the bare bones way that I managed to break down ham radio and make it easy for me to use and me to understand. Well, when someone starts talking to me, digital is a hard thing for me to understand, digital radio. I don't understand why there's 5,000 different kinds. I don't know. So I just tell them, thank you, that's fine. Because you get to a point where when people talk to you about something you don't understand, your brain clicks off. You're not hearing or following what they're saying. So make it easy for the people. You don't have to necessarily dumb it down, but use a word, that in the place of a technical one if you can, because that's been one of the things that's helped me tremendously as I've been trying to knit ARES and the EMA together. So I'm sorry, did we have any questions?
There is one if you want to.
Sure.
How do you engage with the county EMA, fire, EMS, police, with a new ARES races group? They don't seem to see the value of the group, so they don't get a chance or the time to meet with them and create relationships. And that seems to mesh with what you just were talking about.
Yeah. Well, another part of that, how I personally did it, is I actually took my children to become part of their cadet firefighter program, because my family's been in fire protection my whole life, generations, just back as far as you can go. So I took my children up and I started just hanging around. I was there to just take pictures. I ended up as their PIO because I talked to people. Once I heard them on the radio, I went, I think I know how we can improve what you guys are doing, because they complained up one side and down another about how they talk to each other on the radio. I actually have a presentation that I do, a training program I'm actually going to be doing for the fire department, and I partnered with our central dispatch so that I can get dispatch and fire to talk to each other right on the radio. So it's ironic that you asked that. But the biggest thing I would recommend is find your star. Find your person who can talk to them and they enjoy being around them. Find that person who can put a little worm in their ear, about, hey, yeah, I did that. Hey, I've got this group. They're amateur radio operators, but I'm telling you, they're trained. That's the number one thing. Make sure that your guys are trained before you approach these professionals. Because if you can go, they're NIMS compliant and so on and so forth, you will be taken much more seriously. But that's how I did it. I actually jumped feet first into it, and that's just the kind of person I am. I like to get involved in stuff. So I found out when their monthly meetings were, because our fire department meets twice a month on Tuesday nights, the second and fourth Tuesday. And I just started going to their fire meetings. Most fire meetings are open to the public. You don't get to get up in where, the equipment and everything else, but like our fire meetings are open to the public. The public can come down anytime they want and check out how the fire department runs, what kind of equipment they've got, and so on and so forth. It's actually how we've managed to get volunteer firefighters for our department. So yeah, the biggest thing is find that star that you've got that's really good at talking to people and let them get started on it. Because if you can build that bridge just with one person, that's all it takes is one to get it started. And I would say don't try and approach the entire department at the same time. Again, find one person or two people, a couple of guys. You go have coffee and you start talking to them. I think the thing that threatens most first responding agencies when it comes to amateur radio operators is they're afraid that you're going to come in and say, we know this better than you do, and we can do it better, and you need to do it the way we say. So if you go in and let them know, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. You don't pay enough. They don't pay me enough to do your job too. If you go in with that attitude of, I'm just here to help you, I'm just here to provide you with an additional backup service in case you need it in an extreme emergency, you know, they tend to be a little more open about welcoming you. Am I rambling too long?
That's okay. There's another a comment from Hawaii. Institutional knowledge among volunteers can be great or it can be a problem. What is the typical turnover rate of an ARES group? How many of today's volunteers were there 5 years ago?
For our group, I can honestly say our actual turnover was when I became EC. The previous EC kind of took his friends with him, which is fine. So I kind of built it from the ground up. And like I said, every single one of them has had all the IS courses that I've asked them to take. They've taken every bit of training that I've asked them to take, because I didn't come to them as a business or as a group or anything. I approached them as me. And I said, you know, here's what I'm doing and here's what I would like to do, but I need help. And if you're straightforward and honest that, you know, we all know we can't do it all by ourselves. We can't. I feel like you get better volunteers that way. You get volunteers that want to be there to help. They're not focused on trying to get a claim or trying to get whatever they're trying to get out of volunteerism, you know. They're there because they have a volunteer's heart. They want to help.
And the term you were looking for before was technobabble.
Yeah, technobabble, yeah. I don't know, at some point, you know, Charlie Brown's teacher. That's what I start to hear after a while. I'm like, okay, stop. Even my husband, because he's into digital radio and he comes in to talk to me. I love him to pieces. I'm glad he loves it, but you're Charlie Brown's teacher.
Okay, we're good for questions now.
Okay. So this is what I think is the most important part of this entire PowerPoint, entire presentation. The lessons learned. We went through a 3-point problem here in our county before everything started to mesh together. Toxic personalities. I could talk forever about toxic personalities. Equipment, building issues on the trailer, and equipment issues. Oh, if there is a single ham radio operator who says they never had equipment issues, no. Oh, as a matter of fact, I said that in here. Sometimes leadership sucks. I'm just going to say it. I will. I'm honest, so I'll say it. I don't like to say it like that, but it is true. It's 100% true. Our hands are bound because we have a lack of personnel, but we need someone to do the job. I can't wear my EMA hat and my ARES hat at the exact same time. It has to be one or the other. So I need someone, if I'm over in the EOC, which is a few walls behind me from this room, I need someone sitting in this literal chair right here working the radio that's sitting up in front of me. I can't be in two places at once. And while I might not necessarily like the person or whatever, if there's some reason that I don't mesh with them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I had a boss one time that said, you check your luggage at the door when you come in and you can pick it back up when you go out. And believe it or not, that was the clearest thing that any boss ever told me, because I literally do that now. If I'm stressed from home, I leave it at the door when I come into work. And if I'm stressed from work, I leave it at the door when I go home. There's a clear compartmentalization. Of course, sometimes there's bleed over, but more often than not, check your problems at the door, get the job done. So here's our toxic personalities right here. We deal with the I know all. I'm sure you all have had a lot of experience with that one. The my way or the highway. Either they're saying that you're going to do it their way or they're going to leave, or you're going to do it their way or they're going to make you leave. I've encountered both. And the only show up when. Only show up when there's going to be food at the meeting. Only show up when there's an award. Only show up when, you know, it's those volunteers. I wanted to counterbalance that though, because this is the exact opposite of that. We have the just let me know how I can help. I hear that from so many of my volunteers. They're wonderful. The quiet but truly all-knowing. These are the Elmers that I had to go hunting for and go find. It's like, be very, very quiet. Elmer's not hunting the rabbit. I'm hunting the Elmer. And the true Elmer. These are the gentlemen who have the knowledge. They continue to learn even up to the new technology, and they never act like it. They never act like a know-it-all. They never use that in your face. They are genuinely excited if you ask them a question or if you ask them for help. I actually submitted a request to the ARRL a couple of years ago for someone I consider my Elmer, and I asked them to let me give him the Elmer Award, which I don't know if you guys know about that, but you can give an Elmer Award. And the gentleman's name is Kerry Altman. He was then the president of Worky, the group that let me come up for field day and the set and everything else. And he is amazing. He continues to be there, just a call away if I need something. So, I think recognizing those truly good volunteers is a tremendous part of how you keep them. Were there any questions we're almost done, I promise.
Building relationships is important and stuff. They all agree. They want to know what training or experience did you draw upon to become so effective at that in your ARES program?
Well, I've just excelled. I love to learn. It's a private passion. I mean, it's my passion. I love to learn and I love to teach. Before I got out to Missouri, I worked in call centers for over 9 years, and I rapidly went up through the ranks at the call center because I'm a very go get 'em kind of person. I'm sure you can tell. So I would pursue any training and any available information that I felt could help me teach people better. So it was that natural want to be a teacher that helped me to go up through it. Specifically, I guess this is a good place to talk about that. Specifically what I did, the very first day that I came to work for the EMA, actually not ARES, that's not where it started. I am going to tell you a little bit about how I became this trainer for the state. I asked one of the current state trainers, because I was in his class, one of his classes, I said, how do I become a trainer? I walked right up to him, and that was the first words out of my mouth. It wasn't, I'm Sam. It wasn't, what's your name? It was, how do I become a trainer? And I had my receipt from lunch from the class in my hand because we hadn't come back from lunch. So I had the receipt in my hand and I had a pen in my pocket because I always have a freaking pen in my pocket. And he said, okay, you're going to need to take this class, this class, this class, this class, and this class. And I'll put together a list of what Missouri requires for that. I have it on my transcript. But as he's talking, I'm writing down the back of this receipt from lunch. I'm writing every single thing he's telling me. So I got all the way through everything on that receipt over the next 2 years down to the very last thing. Remember what I told you about how hard it is or was to get classes when we were doing them in seat? There was a class that I needed to take, and I could not become a trainer for the state until I took this class, this particular class, and they weren't offering it. So I'd call SEMA, hey, are you offering it anywhere? Because I'll fly or drive anywhere. I need this last class. No, we're not offering it. I was like, I'm this close, literally one line close. And all of a sudden they offered it in Springfield, Missouri. And I went, or no, they offered it in Jeff City. And I went, I want in that class. I don't care what I need to do. I need to be in that class. So I submitted all of my transcripts from all of the prerequisites, and I got my boss here to sign off on it. And I went to a 5-day, I think it was a 5-day class up in Jefferson City. And I finally got my last one. And of course, then, you know, there's a shadow program where you have to shadow trainers before you can go out on your own. A lot of what led up to me being able to be a trainer, and it's actually carried over because I come back to my home county and train my guys, was that I was willing to go above and beyond what they wanted. I actually became a trainer for WebEOC. I don't know if you guys have that in your state. I know some states have it and some states don't, but we use WebEOC here in Missouri. And I became a WebEOC trainer. I didn't have to, but it gave me one more feather in the cap of, hey, look, I'm serious about this. And showing that real love and that real want to do it, it really gets you in there and gets you the ability to have access to the classes and things that you need to become a trainer. I can hear my daughter's voice in my ear. You need to drink something. She comes with me to a lot of the classes I train. She's super awesome. She's a great assistant. And she's constantly telling me, you've talked for like 10, 15 minutes. You didn't even drink anything. So I can hear her voice in my ear. Were there any other questions before I do the building issues?
Nope, we're good. Keep going.
All right. And I'm so sorry if this is going too long. I can wrap it up. But I feel like it's not about the amount of time. I feel it's about getting those questions answered and getting that information that you can't get from other people because they're too busy to give that time. So I'm here for as long as you guys need me. The next thing we experienced was building issues. Like I said, while I can apply dually to building the team and building the actual physical location, I want to talk a little bit about some of the problems we experienced physically building an MCom trailer from scratch. And hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from this and miss some of the wasted money and effort that we went through. Between the sponsorships, the donations, and grants, most of the physical materials you can get pretty easily when you're working on a project like this. We actually talked to Lowe's, Home Depot. I don't remember if we went to Menards or not. We might have gone to Menards. I can't remember. But we went to them and let them know what we were doing. And the point was to build this piece of emergency equipment for our county. And they donated. They donated building materials. They donated extension cords, because like we don't need extension cords. They donated a pop-up 25-foot canopy, I want to say. I think it was 25 feet. It was pretty big. But what I did is I took my clipboard and I took my list of things, because we created a list before we started building anything of what we thought we would need. It was a good idea, don't get me wrong. But as we started to build the trailer, we started to figure out there were better options than what we thought we were going to have to use. You have to watch your weight on everything on a trailer, especially if you're going to be limited by the weight limits of the license plate. So you want to watch that weight. I remember I definitely wanted to make sure that the trailer was insulated. My number one concern was taking care of my volunteers. I don't want them suffering in the heat. I don't want them suffering in the cold. If I won't be out there, they don't need to be out there. Okay. So one of the first things that I made sure that we did was put foam board insulation in the trailer. We had just a 7x14-foot cargo trailer, and we got the insulation up. It was a fight. It was a battle. I would say if there's a better option than foam board, please use it. Because I'll tell you, trying to figure that trick out, that was a pain. The good thing we did is on top of the foam board, we put dry erase panels up. And that's what the entire trailer, front to back, it's all dry erase panels. That way, no matter where you're at in the trailer, you can jot that message or jot that thing down and you won't forget it, or you're over here and the guy on the radio is over there, and you can write anywhere you are. Even our ceiling is whiteboard. I know, call me crazy, but hey, it works. One of the other things that was a really bad choice at the beginning was our power was actually run to fuses instead of breakers. So we had a fuse box instead of a breaker box. Bad idea. Don't do that. If you're going to build a trailer, make sure it's on a breaker box. It can be dangerous if you don't understand how fuses work and how surges work and all sorts of other problems. So my husband actually swapped out the fuse box for the breaker box. So that was a big thing that we learned in the build. One of the other things is, I don't know how your counties are, but with our county, everything had to be removable from that trailer because it's a county asset. And if they decide to use it for a different reason, we have to be able to pull everything out and go back to boards on that cargo trailer. So make sure that you're using screws, make sure that you're using spacers, things like that, because you want to respect the requirement that if it needs to be converted to something else, you can undo everything, take it out. Ideally, if you take it out right, you can put it back in when you get your trailer back. Or make those needed changes that right now you're going, oh, I should have done this. So those were some of the big things that we learned building the trailer from scratch. The next thing I would say is definitely set a limit on how long you want things to take, because as a leader, if you just say, we just need to build the trailer, it'll get done eventually, maybe. So make sure that you set clear goals and clear limits. And if you have someone that's bucking you on that, then it's time to find another someone. And that is really hard for me to say, because I was in that horrible position that I only had one someone. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of options. And I know that some counties and some groups are like that. So do the best you can, make sure things are removable or replaceable, so that when you get someone who does know what they're doing and is able to build it the way it needs to be built, it can easily be taken apart, put the good stuff in or the right stuff in, and then put it back together. So that's the other thing I would say from our lessons learned.
Someone wants to know about insuring the trailer and its contents.
I'm sorry?
Insuring the trailer and its contents?
Yeah, because our county owns the trailer as an asset, it's 100% covered under the county. If my amateur radio club, say, owned it, yes, we would have to carry insurance on it 100%, because if somebody so much as stumbles coming out of the door of the trailer or whatever, it's on us. So yes, not only do you need to make sure that you insure it if you're responsible for that, but I would say get it done before you let anybody even work on the trailer. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel. But yeah, in our specific case, the MCom trailer actually belongs to Benton County, so it's insured as a county asset. And that's one of the great things. We don't have to worry about it.
How many people sit in the trailer?
Our 7x14 comfortably to sit and operate pre-COVID-19, so we're not dealing with 6-foot spacing. We can probably fit 6 with plenty of room to reach out and not touch someone. We can probably fit 6 workspaces. Ideally 3 is better, but we can go all the way up further than that if we need to do quick meetings, or if, like for one of our events, our MCom trailer was actually used as the police officer's post. So for the event, so they would pop into the trailer, and it's air conditioned. We put heating and air conditioning in our trailer, and they popped in to cool down. They popped in to get a cold soda, you know, they popped in to hang around with us, because by that point, they liked us. That's right, win them over with food. If nothing else works, win them over with food. But yeah, I would say if you want to be able to fit any more than that, and you don't want first of all, you don't have to have the 2-sided option that we have, where we have the radios separated. I recommend it because it works out great. When we ran our antennas and our coax, the amateur radio antennas were all at the front of the trailer, and the county antennas are all at the back of the trailer. So it keeps them far enough apart that there's not interference. So that was another thing that we learned. Interference is fun. But if you want to be able to fit more than 3 bigger people or 6 regular sized people, then I'd say go longer. We kept it to 7x14 because I wanted to be able to move it. I didn't think I could move a longer trailer.
Okay. Now, I assume you get maintenance funds from your county. Someone had a question about having an issue with the fire department's own trailer deteriorating because there were no maintenance funds.
And that's a problem if you don't have the situation we have where it's a county asset, because county assets are taken care of. They're in the budget to be taken care of. I actually recommend a couple of different things here. Keep that really good relationship with Lowe's and Home Depot and everybody else, or even the tire guy, because you know tires go out on the trailer. If you've got a tire guy in town who does your family car or whatever, see if he's willing to be a sponsor and say, we'll put a decal from your shop on the trailer, which is what we plan on doing. We haven't wrapped the trailer yet, but we gave sponsorship. We gave location on our trailer for Lowe's and for all of the people that sponsored us. So some of them are ongoing sponsorships where they're willing to give us this or that, whatever. They tell us, hey, you guys are great. We're glad that we got to do this. Come on back next year. So some of that is going out to places and asking. Harbor Freight, I think they're in a lot of places. Harbor Freight's a good one. We actually got our generator for the trailer from Harbor Freight, but it wasn't free. We had to pay for that one. Well, technically we had a grant for that. But the maintenance problem is the same thing. Look at it as part of the building. So when you're going through budgeting what you're going to do and where you're going to get it from, keep that in mind. Part of what we do here in the county is we go, okay, we're going to need to set aside, you know, $800 or $1,000 to replace tires and to upkeep the trailer. So we actually budget it in. There's a possibility if you're doing it through an amateur radio club or you're doing it through the county that it can be written in as a line item on your budget.
Backing up about membership. I'm in central New Jersey. We have about 5 hams per every square mile. We're saturated.
Wow. Oh my God.
And on top of that, a whole bunch of CBers discovered ham radio, and we got
Oh
an
no.
influx of CBers. Oh my God.
Oh no.
Anyhow, but the biggest problem we have a big pissing contest going on between ARES, between certs, between races, you know, who's allowed to do what.
Mhm.
Is cert people allowed to use ham radios, and it just goes on and on.
Mhm.
I get emails that fill my screen every day,
Mhm.
and I think we should have a barbecue party and get the fire department over there and spray these people, calm them down, because
I threatened to get the hose out more than once.
it's just impossible. And you get one guy saying, well, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and
Yeah.
it's get some hard feelings. It just, I don't know. Yeah, we
And
have
when you
like,
get to that point, you're all so frustrated at each other that you don't know where to start fixing it, right?
well, fortunately, you know, it was hard to get a Skywarn seminar going. We had one in December
Hmm.
online, December the 6th, I think it was. It was a 2 hour 2 hour demonstration and talk and whatnot, and we all got qualified.
Awesome.
So that's one saving grace about going online. And I'm thinking of grabbing these CBers by the scruff of the neck and sitting them down and say, all right, here, listen, you know, this is the way it should be done. I mean, they have diarrhea of the mouth. They can't
Yeah.
stop. They can't find a reason not to talk. They just talk for no reason at all. And it just get, you know, you don't want to be the guy that's the sour apple, but by
Hmm.
God, I got my license in 1948. All right, I'm 60 some odd years licensed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm 86. I was communications director for a big city in the central New Jersey until CERT came in, and that was the end of our OEM. We lost all our equipment because I don't know. Somebody kissed somebody's right place, and you know, then it's just very frustrating. You got all these
Yes.
people with all different things. We have a good turnout for field day. We have a very good turnout for field day, so I can't complain about that. But I'm getting fed up with all these emails, and I sort the emails by alphabet. And when I see the alphabet of all the emails starting out with races or certs or whatnot, I just automatically delete them because I know it's just a bunch of garbage. Everybody trying to get into the act. Anyhow,
Well, it's
uh,
interesting to me that you say that there's a races group. This is very interesting to me because I've read every word about the races, and it's actually not anything more than just changing hats from being ARES to being races during a proclamation. There's no such thing anymore as a races group. That was thrown out like I don't know how
well,
many years ago.
that's it. You know, you got some old timers.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know anybody in the Boy Scouts?
Oh, yeah, plenty. Yeah.
Have you
We help
ever
them with their merit badge all the time.
have you looked at the radio merit badge tests?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tougher than extra test.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my
Yeah.
God, the stuff they're pouring down on these poor kids, and I got to give them credit if they pass that thing, because boy, I don't think I could pass it.
I was actually, I know I couldn't pass it, but I was actually approached by the Girl Scouts, by one of the Girl Scout troops. My new CERT coordinator over in Camden County, his daughter's in Girl Scouts, and they don't have anything that equals the Boy Scout merit badge for the ham radio. And they looked at me and said, hey, we'll get a badge made and we'll go all through and get it verified and get, we've got this, other thing that's kind of like it, but can you just, help us understand it in plain English? So I actually have that email sitting in my inbox right now. They've approached me about, making it more understandable and working with them and showing them how to use radios, because I don't care how much you read, it's not going to tell you how to use the radio.
A lot of things that people don't realize, that my son is one of them. I got to kick him in the butt. Is that his kids can use the radio as long as he's present.
Mhm.
And I've got to see him probably next week and say, hey, look, you know, you don't want to get on the air. Give the radio to the kids while you're in the room and let them talk to me. Because
I'm gonna need to break in here.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is going on, and we're getting off subject here. So, Sam, you want to start wrapping it up?
Sure will. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean for it
I
to
got
go
one more
long.
question, though, for Sam.
Okay.
You talk about what you do for weekly nets and what ongoing training you do, and
Mhm.
she's specifically interested in getting an exercise for switching from repeater to simplex to simulate loss of repeaters during an emergency.
We actually work that into our weekly net script. If you go to our website, bentoncountyares.org, and you look up the weekly net, our script is online, so you can actually see the script we use on a weekly basis. And we have a line in the script that says, if for any reason this repeater is not operational, the net will be held on simplex 147.480. And we have it worked in where if I want to flip the switch and knock the repeater offline, I'll sit over on 147.480 and I'll wait and see who shows up. So one of the changes that we have this year for 2021 is that at least one of our weekly nets during the month is going to be held on simplex. I want them to practice passing traffic. If I can't hear somebody in Lincoln, but they can hear them, then they can relay that information in. It gives us the perfect chance to pass the radiograms or to pass ICS 213s. So that's part of what we do for our ongoing training. If someone other than myself operates a weekly net, which now we've got four other amateur radio operators who operate the nets. We alternate weeks, and they have to send me a radiogram telling me how many check-ins there were, just like as if we were sending the information to the Missouri Traffic Net. So it's fantastic practice. Not only do they get to practice saying how you need to say things on the radio, because there's a specific way when you say a question mark or when you say a period, you know, there's a specific way it has to be said. They get to practice that, plus that ups our count for when we have to turn in our monthly report to our DEC. So it gives us twofold practice and just the ability to continue to keep our training and our exercises and ourselves, our minds, focused on how we do things so that it becomes, you know, second nature. We don't have to sit there and go, how do I do this? How do I do this? So there are a few things that we do. The weekly net is pretty awesome to me. We've got some members who have moved out of our area, and we put Echo Link on our repeater. So you can call into our ARES net from anywhere. We actually had a guy call in. One of our friends from Warkey is non-government contractor in Afghanistan. And he called us on our weekly net from Afghanistan. I said, well, you got the DX award forever. So that would be probably what I would say is at the end of each net. The other gentleman I consider my Elmer, Joy McElwee, N0OCP, at the end of every net that their group does, they pass a radiogram, every net, regardless of who's running it. And then he'll ask a question. And then the next week, you come back and you give your answer in radiogram form. So that's been one of the biggest things that has helped a lot with transferring messages and passing messages. That's actually something that the show that I host, Ham Talk, having me do in the next couple of months is to do a full video on exactly how things are said and how radiograms and ICS 213s are passed. So that'll be up shortly. All right, you want me to bring it back around? I'm sorry, it's running long. Equipment issues that we've had, there's not a single person who has never had a problem with a piece of equipment. And if there is, I will eat my metaphoric hat, seriously. I tripped the GFI on a generator on the very first field day I went to because I had no idea what a GFI was. My husband set up our computers and our radios to do digital for this past field day in 2020, and a Windows update completely threw everything out of whack. He couldn't operate digital for the whole day. The malfunctioning radio, malfunctioning microphone that decided it identified as a paperweight, that was our very first set in Benton County that we ran ourselves. I picked up the microphone, I went to talk to my ARES and my CERT members, and nothing, absolutely nothing. And I went, is it plugged in? Because that's your first question, is it plugged in? And I looked and I was like, it's plugged in, it's just not working. Well, in the meantime, we were starting here in the parking lot of the EMA. The tower's right above my head up on the water tower. We can hit it with both bangs. And I called my husband. I was like, I need another microphone. He's 20 miles away in Edwards at our house. I said, I need another microphone. So he drives all the way up to the EMA and gives me a microphone. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to operate. So definitely take the time to make sure you have backups to your equipment. Make sure you have simple things like extra microphones, extra plugs, if you're using Anderson power poles, make sure you have extra Anderson power poles. But we've all experienced those equipment issues. The good news is, with a good bit of drive, a ton of determination, a clear goal, and good people, we constantly work to keep ARES going, because that's the goal. Keep it going. Just keep doing it. Our first responding agencies call us to help with traffic control, parades, events. Like this past December, we actually helped with Shop with a Firefighter and Shop with a Cop because they know us. They like us as people, not because we're ham radio operators, not because we're not ham radio operators, but because we're people and they like us. Not for what we can do to make their lives easier, but because we'll work with them. And we'll work within the boundaries of whatever needs to be done. So I'm sorry it ran long. It's a little long. But here is my contact information. Simplest. During the day, I work during the day, so Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 Central. I'm at work. I'm not going to answer calls. If it's an important email, I will answer it. I answer Dan all the time, so he has the magic golden key. If I see a message come in from Dan, he gets top billing. On Facebook, feel free to friend either of these. The @SamHenley is my Benton County Facebook page. The @KE0LMY is my Camden County Facebook page. So if you could just shoot me a message that says, hey, I saw you on the presentation. That way I get a ton of spam friends requests. So just identify yourself and let me know who you are, and I'll be happy to add you. As I was mentioning, our Warsaw repeater has Echolink. So feel free to jump on Echolink. My husband monitors it almost 24/7 now that I'm working in Camden County. My AEC, Stephen Swerline, he monitors it. So you're always bound to talk to somebody, even if you don't get me. Your best chance to get me is after 5:30 in the evenings, and that's usually when I'll be around. And then finally, number 5 is all of the hashtags that I operate. Well, some of the hashtags I operate. So if you plug any of those into the search engine, even Google, if you plug them into Facebook, if you plug them into Twitter and you hit enter, it'll pull up anything I've posted that's under those hashtags. So sorry it ran long. I'm so sorry again, but I had a great time with you guys.
It was a great presentation. It's very well done. Yes, and most of the people are still here, so you didn't talk us out.
Well, thank you.
But
What's your call on Echolink?
Echolinks is WB0EM-L, and the node number is 459916. And the other presentation.
What was the call again? WB0 what?
Whiskey Bravo 0 Echo Mike TAC Lima.
What time is your net?
The Benton County ARES net is on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. And just before I let you guys go, I'll show you what I'm getting. On the 13th, I'm actually putting this presentation on for our CERT and ARES members. So let me know if you guys are interested in that, and I'll be happy to send you the link, because that's the one that we're going to be doing. We found out there was a lot of repetitiveness in the forms that we were having CERT fill out, and it was duplicating all of the paperwork I had to write for the EMA for FEMA. So we went, okay, let's get rid of all the forms that are duplicated, and let's put the FEMA forms into the CERT clipboards. So if you guys are interested in that one, I think Dan wants me to do it on the 14th, but I'm already scheduled to do it on the 13th.
okay, that's fine. We're okay for the 14th. So
Okay.
we can do that later on.
Okay. Okay. And like I said, if you want to reach out to me to keep up with what Skywarn's doing in Missouri, and once they get their program up off the ground, I'll try and get you guys updates on that as well.
Real good. Appreciate it. I'm going to be sending a presentation out with all the information plus the chat to everybody, so they all get a copy of what